Well, Brian, the Colorado Buffaloes had their first spring ball scrimmage on Friday. We were allowed to go in only about 25 plays due to CU's depth in certain areas. We're going to see more scrimmage work this coming Friday. Just your overall takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically my overall takeaway. It was nice to be there. It just felt good to be on the practice field. We talked about the other day. We hadn't been to Franklin Field since I think August of 2019, and even really the last year or so that we were at Franklin, or two, we couldn't even go in the gates. It was standing outside the gates. So it was just nice to see it practice. I mean, it's hard to really get a whole lot out of those 20, 25 practice or plays, especially when so many guys are out. I mean, I think the bigger thing is that we watched Nate Lamon standing there. We saw Sam Neuer standing there. We watched Terrence Lang walk by. So we saw a lot of key players that were out, but it was good to get a look at some of those young guys and just watch some live football.
Yeah, I don't know if it was as dramatic as the dead baseball players walking out of the cornfield to the Field of Dreams to relive their glory days, but it really genuinely did feel great stepping on Franklin Field, and you had the Flatirons in the background and seeing the guys run around, just having football noises out there. With the guys that were out, I think I counted about 17 scholarship players that were out, and mostly minor injuries. A lot of those guys, like Tariq Luckett, like Darrell mentioned, just kind of has a nagging groin injury. Different guys like Brendan Rice were out as well. But yeah, first time to see those guys in nearly 20 months. And the defense dominated in that small sample size. They were really stout at the point of attack and opportunistic in the secondary. What were just your thoughts? I thought some of the depth pieces kind of showed themselves. It was fun to see Ray Robinson, who is at inside linebacker for 3 years. He gets moved to safety, and there's a drop pass, and he's opportunistic, picks that off. Nigel Bethel, who we saw a little bit of last year during teamwork, he goes in there, sniffs out a screen pass, gets an interception there. Jarrell says that that's something that he does on a consistent basis. Is kind of a magnet to the ball. Marvin Hamm was another guy yesterday that made a couple plays. He's really transformed his body. You think back to that class of 2019, he was one of their top 4 rated signees, and he comes in pretty undersized, but he's put some good size on his frame. Was there any players that stood out to you yesterday?
Yeah, one thing about Nigel is Mackay, we mentioned it the other day, but saw in a video he was on, looked like he had a splint on a finger, so he must have a broken finger or something. So, Nigel, is getting some good work there. But and I think that's big for those corners. And we've talked about we like that corner depth, but I think that's good for Mackay doesn't really need that work, but somebody like Nigel and those guys do. But aside from the guys you mentioned, I thought I saw Naeem Rodman get in there and make a couple plays at the line of scrimmage. Janaz Jordan is a huge man. And did a pretty good job on the front there. I thought Devin Grant made a couple of plays at outside linebacker. Carson Wells was a beast once again. I don't know how many plays he was out there, but I saw him making a couple of plays. And a guy we don't really talk about, but was mentioned. I'm glad somebody asked about this guy, was Jaylee Stacks. He ran the ball hard, and it sounds like he might be able to find a role. We saw him in a couple of plays last year as a blocker, but he's a pretty good running back in high school, and he had a couple of nice runs the other day.
Yeah, I was doing some depth chart predictions, and I didn't even list Jaylee Stacks with the other tailbacks because he's kind of his own type of player. We heard Darrell mention that he's a utility back, obviously a massive human being, and Darrell said that he's good catching the ball in the backfield. He's kind of like this massive bowling ball out there. Like, I would not want to be the guy trying to bring him down out there. So he's going to have a role on this team. We saw him a few times out there in short yard situations, but a lot of the guys yesterday might be depth pieces in terms of second string guys, but Jaylee Stacks isn't going to start and play a ton of snaps, but he's going to have a role on this team.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm trying to think the last time they really had, a strong fullback, like on those goal line situations. And I mean, they've put a couple, tight end back there, but, Stacks, I think, could be a really big asset to this team. So we talk about massive human beings, Janaz Jordan, but the most massive human being out there was Tank, right? Jared Christian
Yeah.
Lichtenhand, who we've heard. I mean, he's the tallest player in CU history, and we've heard he's a tall drink of water. We saw him in person. That's a big man.
Yeah, yeah. 5 scholarship offensive linemen were out yesterday with Josh Gines not participating. The first group was what we expected, though, with Casey Roddick not being part of the team this spring as he deals with a medical issue. You had left tackle Frank Phillip, left guard Kerry Cush, center Colby Purcell, right guard Kanan Ray. And then at right tackle, I don't know if any player is benefiting from the reps he's getting more than Jake Wiley this spring. This is a guy they really need to step up there. Maybe they look to bring in a tackle transfer to bring more competition there. But right now, that's the guy that's penciled in to be your starter at right tackle.
Yeah, and a guy that when he was recruited to CU, I think, pretty, wasn't rated super high. I'm not sure how excited fans got about him. He is a local kid, but he's been talked about a lot. And I agree with you. It sounds like he's having a good spring, and that you probably can't find 5 guys that are benefiting more than he is for this spring. And, I always thought that Valentin Sen would be, one of those top candidates for tackle, but he was actually playing guard yesterday. So it looks like, Jake looks big. He's put on some weight. I know he does a lot of work, down at 6'0" with Matt McChesney. And you can tell he's putting in a lot of work. And, it's hard to really grade those linemen on those 25 plays. And a lot of them were, about 150 yards away from us. But, from what I could tell, he looked pretty good.
Like we've alluded to, there's not a whole lot we're going to take away from those 25 scrimmage plays we saw yesterday. But this is what I like about spring ball is we're talking about depth guys. When you get into the season, you don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about or asking about a lot of these guys. And so I love spring ball for that reason. There's like a Ray Robinson. Are we going to talk a lot about him in the week leading up to the season opener? Probably not, but that's a position we've talked about depth concerns. If he can continue to make plays out there, could be an important depth piece if injuries do mount there. So I don't know. I enjoy this stuff. I'm looking forward to next Friday because Darrell said that they're going to be in the stadium and run more plays. Any other final takeaways from yesterday and kind of looking forward here to the next scrimmage?
Well, one other thing is, we got our first look at JT Shrout, the quarterback transfer from Tennessee. And my first thought was, that's a big kid. That's a good sized quarterback. And, neither quarterback looked great. Even Darrell said it was not a great day for the offense. And we saw both Shrout and Brendan Lewis throw interceptions. And so it wasn't the greatest day, but I thought he looked the part. He looked like a big kid. And, it's a pretty good competition there. It's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. I'm looking forward to seeing both of those guys a little bit more extensively this next Friday.
Evan Price made the one field goal we saw, and even Mac Willis made his field goal as well. So some exciting stuff from Franklin Field to report on from Friday. Brian, we've got a couple practices on Monday and Wednesday to cover. We'll be back before the second scrimmage with a little bit more analysis for you.